All right, so are you ready to dive into the world of Elon Musk? This guy, he dreamed of going to Mars as a kid, and now he's actually making it happen.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? And it's not just rockets and electric cars,
Uh,
it's this ambition like we rarely see,
yeah,
It's
the-
almost superhuman.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And we've got a ton of material to work with today. We've got a detailed biography that takes us behind the scenes.
Oh, wow.
Family, friends, ex-wives even weighed in.
Really?
And we got some internal SpaceX emails
Oh, wow.
that reveal his, shall we say, unique management style.
I bet. Yeah.
So this is a chance to go beyond headlines, not just what Musk has done, it's how he's done it.
Right.
What drives him? What are the costs of this relentless ambition?
Absolutely.
So let's go back to the beginning. Musk's childhood in South Africa was, well, rough. Bullying, a brutal attack that landed him in the hospital.
I did read about that, and it makes you wonder, like, where does that ambition come from, It's like some people break under pressure, but others like him seem to forge this impenetrable resilience.
Yeah.
And then you look at his family history. His grandfather was a successful chiropractor, even a politician in Canada. And then, boom, he gives it all up, moves his family to South Africa.
It's like this need to escape, to break free, is woven into his DNA.
It is, it is.
And get this, they shipped their airplane to South Africa piece by piece.
No way.
Rebuilt it there,
Yeah.
and used it to scout out where to live.
That's incredible.
Think about that. The 1950s, uprooting your whole life, rebuilding a plane.
Yeah.
It speaks to a legacy of resourcefulness, risk-taking.
Absolutely.
A legacy Musk clearly inherited.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, he was hustling, selling Easter eggs door to door. But there was this other side, too, building homemade rockets.
Oh, wow.
And wait for it, explosive.
Explosive.
Oh, yeah. Another trip to the hospital after one experiment went wrong.
Oh, no.
Maybe that explains a few things.
Yeah, maybe. So it's that early experimentation, This
Yeah.
willingness to push boundaries, sometimes dangerously. So that kind of becomes a hallmark of his approach.
Yeah, and that fearlessness carried right into his first business venture, Zip2, a company he started with his brother Kimball. Now, it sounds simple, an online directory for businesses. But back in the mid-90s,
Revolutionary. Like, imagine trying to convince a pizza parlor they need an online presence back then.
Right.
They didn't even have websites.
it was classic startup grind. Living at the office, showering at the YMCA, practically surviving on Jack in the Box.
I've heard that story before.
But for Musk, the stakes were higher. It wasn't just about building a company. It was about proving himself in a world that doubted him.
Right.
And that drive led him to his next big thing, PayPal.
Yeah.
But this time, the journey was even more chaotic.
Oh, yeah, the dot-com bubble.
Yeah.
Insane valuations, crazy spending. But Musk wasn't just chasing a quick payout.
Right. He poured a huge chunk of his own money into X.com, the company that would become PayPal. This was personal.
It really was.
And while the PayPal saga ultimately ended with him being ousted as CEO,
Which, let's be honest, would make anyone bitter. But he stayed on as an advisor, kept investing, and made a fortune when eBay bought PayPal. He could have walked away, retired young, enjoyed his millions.
become another Silicon Valley venture capitalist.
Right, exactly. Instead, he has this near-death experience that changes everything. Literally right before starting SpaceX, he gets malaria, almost dies.
Wow. It makes you think, did that brush with mortality fuel his drive even more?
It's hard to say, but this is a man who stared death in the face and then decided to build rockets.
Classic Musk. And he didn't mess around. Devoured books on rocket science, consulted experts, even tried to buy a refurbished ICBM from the Russians.
Really?
Dead set on sending a mission to Mars, even if it meant going through unconventional channels.
Wow.
And picture this. They're flying back from Russia, totally demoralized, the deal's fallen through. Musk's on the plane, crunching numbers, then suddenly turns to his team and says, I think we can build this rocket ourselves.
The birth of SpaceX, a company that was at the time considered a complete joke by industry veterans.
Starting a rocket company from scratch. It seemed impossible.
It did, didn't it? But he had this uncanny ability to draw in brilliant minds, Like guys like Tom Mueller, a rocket scientist who'd been building engines in his garage since he was a kid.
Kindred spirits.
Yeah, and Musk's hiring process. Find the smartest person in the room, grill them relentlessly until he understands every detail.
That's awesome.
Relentless curiosity and infectious enthusiasm. It's how he built a team of true believers, even when the odds were stacked against them.
And those early days were brutal. Multiple rocket failures, nearly going bankrupt.
And let's not forget a management style that could be intense.
To say the least, Musk is known for his demanding work ethic, his absolute disdain for bureaucracy, and his direct feedback.
That's putting it mildly.
One story that comes to mind, An early SpaceX employee had to detail his entire work schedule for Musk down to bathroom breaks.
Wow, micromanagement on another level. But it shows his obsession with efficiency. Every wasted minute is a setback to achieving his goals.
And speaking of goals, while SpaceX was struggling to get off the ground, Musk had another audacious idea brewing: Tesla.
This is where his vision really starts to crystallize. He wasn't just interested in building cool cars. He wanted to revolutionize the entire auto industry, to help wean the world off fossil fuels.
And how did he go about it? In the most unconventional way possible, of course. He hired a bunch of Silicon Valley engineers who knew next to nothing about making cars.
Which, looking back, might have been their biggest advantage. They weren't burdened by the old ways of thinking.
Exactly. A blank slate to reimagine what a car could be. Their first car, the Roadster. They basically took a Lotus Elise chassis, stretched it out, crammed in a massive battery pack, and hoped for the best.
And it worked. The Roadster was a revelation. Proof that an electric car could be practical and exhilarating. It turned heads, challenged perceptions, put Tesla on the map.
But of course it wasn't all smooth sailing. Manufacturing delays, cost overruns, constant skepticism from the established auto industry.
Tesla's early years were a masterclass in crisis management. Musk was constantly juggling competing demands, scrambling for funding, battling naysayers who were predicting their downfall.
Yet like a phoenix rising from the ashes, Musk always seemed to pull through. Raised more money, secured a crucial government loan, kept the company afloat.
It wasn't just luck. He was willing to put his own money on the line even as his personal life was imploding.
Right. His marriage was falling apart. The media was going crazy over the divorce. But Musk never seemed to lose focus. It was like these companies, they were bigger than him, bigger than any one person.
That's when we start to see the Elon Musk myth emerge. The Tony Stark comparisons, the visionary leader sacrificing everything for the greater good.
But is it a myth or reality? That's what we'll unpack as we dig deeper into the stories of SpaceX and Tesla.
SpaceX, the company's early struggles, I mean, they're almost legendary.
Oh, absolutely. 3 failed launches of the Falcon 1 rocket in a row. Can you imagine that pressure? Millions of dollars literally up in smoke.
Yeah, but what's remarkable is that Musk never wavered. You know, he saw those failures not as defeats, but as beta points, opportunities to refine their designs, improve their processes.
And that's where his engineering background really comes in. You know, he wasn't afraid to get down into the weeds to really figure out what went wrong.
Yeah, there's a story about the third Falcon 1 failure. It was caused by something called a thrust transient during engine startup.
Thrust transient.
Basically, the engine didn't ramp up to full power smoothly. It was a tiny hiccup, but in rocket science, tiny hiccups can be catastrophic.
Right.
So Musk and his team spent weeks poring over data, analyzing every frame of video footage until they found the problem.
Wow, that obsessive attention to detail.
Right. And of course, he expected the same level of dedication from everyone around him.
Oh, I bet. And that brings us to his management style. You know, we've talked about the intensity, but there's this other side to it, too. This quirky, almost comical side.
Oh, yeah, like his infamous ban on acronyms.
Oh, yeah.
He hated them, thought they were inefficient and confusing.
I got you to see that.
There's an email where he actually wrote, and I quote, "If I see any more acronyms, I will personally delete them."
He was serious.
Oh, he was serious. He wanted to personally approve every new acronym.
That's micromanagement to the extreme.
It is, but it also speaks to this desire for clarity, you know, for simplicity. He wants everyone speaking the same language, working towards the same goal.
And that goal, the ultimate goal, was reusability.
The holy grail of space exploration. The key to making space travel affordable, to making Musk's Mars ambitions even remotely possible.
And they're actually doing it. The Falcon 9 can now land back on Earth, touchdown, on a floating platform in the ocean, or even back at the launch site.
It's mind-blowing how they do that. The Falcon 9 uses these grid fins for steering and then these powerful engines to slow its descent. It then deploys landing legs and touches down on a designated landing pad.
It's incredible. And they're not stopping there. They're building a network of satellites to provide high-speed internet access to the entire planet.
Starlink, it sounds like something out of science fiction, but it's already starting to come online.
It really is incredible. But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about Tesla.
While SpaceX was reaching for the stars, Tesla was busy electrifying the roads.
The Model S, their first mass-market car. It was a game changer. Sleek design, incredible performance, and a range that finally made electric cars a viable option for most people.
And those giant touchscreens, you know, they essentially turned the car into a rolling computer.
It was brilliant. Tesla understood that the future of cars wasn't just about hardware. It was about software, about connectivity.
They created a car that was more than just transportation. It was an experience.
And they didn't stop there. Over-the-air software updates the supercharger network. They kept pushing the boundaries.
The supercharger network was genius. It solved one of the biggest problems with electric cars, range anxiety. Tesla owners could finally drive long distances without worrying about running out of juice.
Yeah, they even tried a battery swapping system for a while, though it never really caught on.
Yeah, Musk is always thinking ahead, trying to anticipate future needs and come up with creative solutions. Sometimes those solutions are just ahead of their time.
Speaking of thinking ahead, let's talk about Solar City.
Musk's move into solar energy was just as ambitious and just as controversial.
He basically turned Solar City into this massive decentralized utility company, leasing solar panels to homeowners and businesses, creating this network of interconnected energy systems.
It was a bold move, and it put him squarely in the crosshairs of the traditional utility companies.
And then there's the Gigafactory, Tesla's massive battery factory in Nevada.
The Gigafactory is a perfect example of Musk's long-term thinking. He realized that to scale up electric car production, they needed a reliable and affordable supply of batteries. So he built the biggest battery factory in the world.
Classic Musk thinking, big in risks, betting on the future.
But all this ambition comes at a price. His personal life has been tumultuous, his companies have faced near-death experiences, and his management style has burned out more than a few employees.
Yeah, it's true. He's demanding, relentless, even ruthless at times, but he's also inspiring, visionary, and undeniably effective.
So the question remains, is Elon Musk a hero or a villain, a genius or a madman?
Or maybe he's a bit of both. He's a walking contradiction. A billionaire who lives like a college student, a tech CEO who wants to colonize Mars. He's like a character straight out of a science fiction novel.
And he certainly plays the part. Remember when he launched his own car into space?
The Tesla Roadster strapped to a Falcon Heavy rocket.
Pure Muskian showmanship.
A giant middle finger to the establishment. A reminder that he plays by his own rules.
And it worked. People were talking about it for weeks. It generated tons of publicity for both Tesla and SpaceX.
It's that kind of out-of-the-box thinking that makes him so unpredictable. But it also makes you wonder about his motivations. Is it all about saving humanity? Or is it about ego?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Altruism or ambition? A desire to make the world a better place, or a need to leave his mark on history?
It's probably a bit of both. He's clearly concerned about the future of humanity. He sees climate change as an existential threat. And he believes that colonizing Mars is our best insurance policy. And he's putting his money where his mouth is. He's investing billions in clean energy technologies and building rockets that can take us to other planets.
But he's also a brilliant marketer who understands the power of branding, of creating a narrative.
He knows how to generate hype, how to cultivate a cult of personality around himself and his companies.
Which leads us to another fascinating aspect of his story, the role of myth-making. Musk has become this symbol of innovation, a modern-day Prometheus stealing fire from the gods of technology.
He's become an icon, a superhero for the digital age, and that's a powerful force.
It attracts talent, inspires investors, creates this aura of destiny around his companies, but it also sets him up for a fall.
Because the higher you climb, the harder you fall. And Musk has set the bar incredibly high.
He's made promises that may be impossible to keep, created expectations that are almost impossible to meet.
Like his goal of sending humans to Mars by 2029.
Exactly. It's an incredibly ambitious timeline, and many experts believe it's simply not feasible.
But that's Musk for you. He doesn't let reality get in the way of his vision. He sets these audacious goals, then pushes himself and everyone around him to achieve them.
And often he succeeds. He's proven the doubters wrong time and time again, but the pressure is immense, and it takes a toll.
There are stories about him sleeping on the factory floor, working 100-hour weeks, pushing his employees to the brink of exhaustion.
That kind of intensity is unsustainable in the long run, and it raises questions about the human cost of his ambition.
You know, we get caught up in the excitement of his vision, but we also need to consider the impact on the people who are actually building his rockets and his cars.
And on his personal life, too. His relationships have been notoriously volatile. He's been married and divorced multiple times.
The classic driven entrepreneur sacrificing everything for his work.
It makes you wonder, is it all worth it?
That's a question only Musk can answer. But one thing is undeniable. He's changed the world.
He's pushed the boundaries of what's possible. He's inspired a generation of entrepreneurs and engineers.
He's shown us that anything is possible if you dare to dream big, take risks, and never give up.
So what does it all mean? What are the key takeaways from this deep dive into the life of Elon Musk?
For me, it's a reminder that innovation is rarely a straight line. It's messy, chaotic, full of setbacks and failures.
But it's also exhilarating, inspiring, and ultimately transformative.
It's about pushing beyond our comfort zones, challenging the status quo, daring to imagine a different future.
It's about the power of human ingenuity, the resilience of the human spirit, the almost limitless potential of human ambition.
And it's about the responsibility that comes with that power, the need to use it wisely, ethically, for the benefit of all humankind.
And that, I think, is the legacy of Elon Musk. He's shown us a glimpse of what the future could be. He's challenged us to make it a reality.
So the question for you is, what will you do with that challenge? What will your contribution be to the story of human progress?
Yeah, it really is something to think about, isn't it? Like, how do we each contribute to making the world a better place?
It is, and whether you admire Musk or you question his methods,
Mm-hmm.
he's such a fascinating study in leadership and innovation.
Totally. He's not perfect, and he'd probably be the first to admit that.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's made mistakes, faced setbacks, dealt with his fair share of controversy, but through it all, he's kept pushing forward.
Driven by that almost unshakable belief in his vision.
Right, and that's something I think we can all learn from, that unwavering commitment,
Mhm.
that willingness to take risks, to challenge conventional thinking. It's not about blindly following his path, but about finding our own way to make a difference.
To identify those problems that we're passionate about solving and then to just go after them with everything we've got.
Exactly. So
Uh,
as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Elon Musk, I'm left with a sense of both awe and caution.
I can see that.
Awe at his accomplishments at the scale of his ambition, but also caution, because his story is a reminder that progress isn't always linear, and that even the most brilliant minds can be flawed.
That's a good point. It's a reminder that we need to be thoughtful about the future we're building and to consider the potential consequences of our actions.
Because ultimately, the future isn't something that just happens to us. It's something that we create.
And the choices we make today will determine the world we leave behind for generations to come.
So what will your choices be? That's something for you to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive